Hello, I'm Father Kasper Maisvide of Radio Veritas Asia. Welcome to the special program, The Voice of Asian Bishops. It is a privilege and honor to have with us today the Most Reverend Bishop Maxwell, Auxiliary Bishop of Archdiocese of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and then Chairman of Office of Social Communication, Sri Lankan Bishop Conference. Bishop Maxwell, welcome.
Sampat Hawaduge Maxwell Grenville Silva. Auxiliary Bishop Sampat Hawaduge Maxwell Grenville Silva was born on September 27, 1953 in Wilorawate, Moratuwa, in the Archdiocese of Colombo. He is the second of 4 children of Stanley John Silva and Eugene Victoria Diaz. He studied at the Catholic school in Wilorawate and St. Sebastian's College, Moratuwa. In 1967, he joined St. Aloysius Minor Seminary, then continued formation at Harwarden Seminary and the National Seminary in Ampitia. He was ordained a priest on July 25, 1981. Father Silva served in parishes including Dalugama, Tibotugoda, Mabola, and Kerawela Petia. He pursued higher studies, earning degrees in theology from Rome and sociology from the University of Kelania, along with additional educational qualifications. He served in education for over 20 years, including as Vice Principal of Basilica College, Ragama, and Principal of St. Thomas's College, Kote. On November 28, 2011, Pope Benedict XVI appointed him Auxiliary Bishop of Colombo and Titular Bishop of Lesina. He was consecrated at St. Lucia's Cathedral. In 2019, he became Vice Chairman of the Commission for Justice, Peace and Human Development of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Sri Lanka. He currently serves as the Chairman of the Office of Social Communication and oversees the Bible Society in Sri Lanka.
Let me start with this question, Bishop. You were appointed as Auxiliary Bishop of Colombo in 2011. Can you tell us or provide us a general picture of your archdiocese?
The Archdiocese of Colombo is one of the 12 dioceses in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the Catholic population, the total population is 22 million, the whole population in Sri Lanka. Whereas we have 1.5 million Catholics in the whole of Sri Lanka, out of which 52%, there is more than 50% are from Colombo. That means 750,000 Catholics in Colombo. So that means most of the Catholics, the majority of the Catholics are living in the Western province, which is called the Archdiocese of Colombo.
As Auxiliary Bishop, what is your main responsibility?
I am in charge of education, and at the same time am the chairman of the social communication, and I am in charge of the Bible Society in Sri Lanka. At the same time, I do work for Legion of Mary and St. Vincent de Paul. These are my main responsibilities from the side of the Bishops' Conference.
You mentioned about your involvement in education ministry. Does the education is part of key ministries of Archdiocese?
With the arrival of the Portuguese in 1505, they introduced the present system of education, which is the community education. Earlier, before their arrival, we had what we call Upanishad system. The student went to the teacher and studied in the temple. Person to person, that's a normal procedure. Whereas here in classroom education was introduced the present system of education is a development of what the Portuguese introduced and what Dutch built up, and finally what Britishers brought into the climax. That is the education system we inherit today. Therefore, from the beginning of the church, education has played a dominant role. Even in Colombo, we have quite a lot of Catholic schools. What we call Catholic means a majority Catholics. And we have the other religions, Buddhist children, Hindus and Islam. But still for all, the administration done by the Catholic and the education, when it comes for education, everybody in Sri Lanka, they try to enter our schools because there's a big difference between our schools and the other schools because of the discipline. So they always say, we want to give a Christian education. Though they are Buddhist, though they are Hindus, they appreciate Christian education.
Sri Lanka is diverse nations or diverse country with many religious traditions and cultural traditions. In your view and observations, how the church has involved in interfaith dialogue to promote unity and foster understanding among those cultural beliefs?
Yeah. Actually, for us, interreligious dialogue is something that we inherit from our small days. As I mentioned earlier, in our schools, especially in our Catholic schools, there are quite a lot of Buddhist study, quite a lot of Hindus and even Islam, Muslims. So from our small days, we are used to that company. That is one of the major reasons. Therefore, to have an interreligious dialogue is not something strange, which is very common to each and everyone. And at the same time, here in Sri Lanka, we have all four religions, major religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity.
There is a common perception in being minority like in Sri Lanka, Catholics and Catholicism, but you have schools in which you also accept non-Catholic students into your schools. And there is a perception that there's a tendency of converting other beliefs or other religion into the faith or Catholicism. How do you respond to that common perception?
Yeah, it's a good question you ask because the Catholic education start off roots with the arrival of the famous first Archbishop of Colombo, Bishop Bonjean, Christopher Bonjean. He came from Jaffna. He's a Frenchman born in Rion. And when he came to Jaffna, he was there for 18 years. He promoted education. And it is who opened the eyes of the people and said, we have missed so many things. At least we'll try to open it for our children. This is what he preached, not only for Catholics, Hindus in Jaffna. And when he was promoted here as the Archbishop of Colombo, he told the same thing to the Buddhists. He is the man who fought not only for Catholics, for the rights of the Buddhist and Hindus. They were not playing a major role when he came to Australia, to the Archdiocese of Colombo in 1885. That time the education was in the hands of Dutch, that means Anglicans. But he said it's not correct. And he fought and got down a priest for the special national commission. Out of 9, 1 Catholic priest and 2 Christian priests were there with the other laity. So Christopher Bonjean has fought not only for Catholics, for the rights of the Catholics, even for the others. And that he proved. He started a very big school in Colombo, St. Joseph's College in 1886. And we have more than 30 to 40 schools started by the bishops.
What inspired you to respond yes to God's call?
When I was called by the nuncio, he told me these words: this is not going to be a new vocation, but the vocation, the yes you said on 25th of July 1981. That's the day I was ordained a priest. He said it's a continuation. So he pointed me out certain things and said, this is a call from the supreme head of the church, Pope. Therefore, be generous and try to say, accept this. Actually, I was not ready at all. I didn't know that this is the message going to be. I thought that he has invited me for something else. But then I asked him to give me 2 weeks to make a decision. Finally, I decided, I opted for it, yes. As soon as I was appointed, they made me the bishop in charge of education. For 7 years, I did that. That means that covers the whole work of the dioceses in each diocese. And I have visited 10 schools from each diocese, altogether 120 schools, because here in Sri Lanka, education plays a very pivotal role. I think even in any other country, education plays important. So I tried my best to do what I could. As a priest who was in education, I tried my best to do it. Then now I have finished that. So now the second term for me is communication. And I accepted it and I am going ahead with my work now.
Speaking of that, your role as Office of Social Communication Chairman for the Subconference of Sri Lanka, in your observation, the rising numbers of people use social media as a means of communication. What do you think? How do you see the advantage and disadvantage of that in your context in Sri Lanka?
Most of the people are involved with communication because here in Sri Lanka, the literacy rate is 96%. 96%. So whether it is the main communication or social communication, the people, especially the young and adolescents, are very much involved with communication. They get the message, what the people are conveying. And at times, as we have the good qualities of communication, you come to know the whole world is a global village. So the world is a global village now. So they come to know. At the same time, there are little things where the people have exploited this for their advantage, political purposes, and what is happening in the world. Therefore, the world is growing very fast with education. And I think I have to mention Radio Veritas. Sri Lanka was one of the pioneer members of this. And from the very beginning, Veritas and Sri Lanka, we have very good contacts that we say with a great pride.
Sri Lanka, your country, has been through with several turbulences in terms of economic, politics, and other crises. Of course, COVID-19 pandemic. The question is, we are not tuned into the political side of the issue, but how this crisis have affected the life of the people, particularly the faithful.
During the past few years, the turbulences, whether it is economic, political or social, have affected most of the people in the world too. And we are not an exception for it. But we have been affected very badly because we are not happy with our politicians. We are not happy. There are good people. There are good people that we have to accept. But most of the time they have exploited our people for their advantage, which is a crime. And the people have realized that. People have realized it now. That is one of the reasons. When it comes for economic exploitation, it has been always we were depending on export-import economy. That was our main thing, and agriculture, which played a dominant role, just like in Philippines for rice. You have your international center for rice. We 70% of our people are farmers in Sri Lanka, and in one stage, our rulers made a blunder by cutting off all the facilities for agriculture, which I think is the blunder which we are suffering because of that. Because they used to give all the fertilizer and all the necessary things for the farmers, because that's their bread and butter. And it was stopped. And which I personally feel is one of the great blunders we made it in the field of economy and in the field of society.
What programs or initiatives that the church has offered to overcome or to respond to these situations?
In Sri Lanka, the church plays a dominant role in almost all the fields that happens. If it is economy, our people, especially most of our Catholics, are involved in fisheries, sphere, most of them. And they have contributed their might for the economy. And when you come for the plantation, tea industry, because which is the number one foreign exchange earner up to 1970s, 80s, the church too has involved a lot, because we have quite a lot of people who are involved in tea and coconut among our Catholics. So we have given our best, but only thing is we are very unfortunate that we have not received the patriotic leadership, and they try to think about themselves, and that's why we are in a debris now.
Colombo or Sri Lanka, perhaps in general, not many people out there know, in Asia or the world. What message do you want to convey to the people so that people might aware about Sri Lanka, particularly about our mission or other things that you, the church in Sri Lanka, have been involved here in Sri Lanka?
It's a privilege to speak about our country, Sri Lanka. It's a very small country, but it's full of what we call different wells. There are a lot of assets here, and the population is 22 million, out of which 1.5 are Catholics, and about another 3% Christians. Altogether, we come to about 10% Christians in Sri Lanka. But we had been always been good with each other, with our religions, with other religions, with the interreligious dialogues and all these things. We had been very, very friendly with each other. That's a very friendly nation. and we always appreciate the good qualities of the others also. And at the same time, the Christianity was brought to Sri Lanka in an established way in 1505 by Portuguese. And the message of Christ is brought, as St. Matthew says, go to the world to preach the good news and make disciples in my name. This is what he says. So we had been doing this. But at the same time, we can't say that the Christianity was introduced to Sri Lanka only in 1505, because prior to that, there had been Christian communities, small little communities in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you. I am Father Kasipranema Isfidi of Radio Veritas Asia. Thank you for watching. See you next time for more interesting conversations with Asian bishops. Bye for now.